What's up, everybody? It is Izzy. Today's an off day, but we're doing a Q&A anyway, so let's get into it. The day after doing a deadlift session, 67. The rest of the time, 31. I have no idea what this audio is going to sound like, so I apologize, but hopefully it works out. Look at where my arms are here on a close grip bench, right? Look at how far back my elbow goes. It's actually not even below my shoulder. Watch what happens when I pull out my hands. It immediately drops back, right? I'm not pulling my hands any deeper. Look. This is how far back my elbow goes. It's the range of motion at the shoulder joint. Close grip, slightly wider. Close grip, slightly wider. You're going to have more range of motion at the shoulder joint with a slightly wider grip. And that's because, look at what the forearm angle happens here when you do a close grip. Now, yes, compared to this, right, there's going to be slightly more elbow travel with a close grip than a wider grip. And that might increase the absolute range of motion, but you're getting that more elbow travel is going to increase the tricep involvement compared to when you're getting that shoulder pulled back and maximizing range of motion at the shoulder. That's what's stretching the pec. That's what's giving you the most pec involvement. So that's why narrowing your grip on most bench press variations makes it more tricep. But the most amount of range of motion you can get at the shoulder joint is when your forearms are vertical. Watch what happens when I start going wider. See how the elbow again, instead of going as far back as it can, it starts coming more and more forward, more and more forward. Same thing that happens with close grip, and that's because those forearms are becoming diagonal. You're effectively changing the length of the arm in that plane, and it reduces that backward elbow travel, which is, again, what is stretching the pec? It's shoulder flexion. It's what is training the chest and shoulders the most. So you can go narrower, but it's going to make it more tricep. Necessary is a loaded word, man. Like, there's very few things that are necessary. If you want to live, it's necessary to breathe, to drink water, to eat food every once in a while. It's not necessary to have sex. But does that mean you want to go the rest of your life being celibate? Probably not. Same thing with a deload. Do you have to take a deload every 6 to 8 weeks? Is that necessary? No. Deload frequency is going to be depending on the individual and their program. But does pretty much every good lifter have to have periods of the year where they take it a little bit easier, where they take time off, where they don't go to failure, where they give their joints and soft tissues a break? It's pretty damn good idea. Otherwise, you're just going to get injured, and your injuries are eventually going to force you to do your deload or your easy period. So again, not necessary to bust a nut, but you probably should every once in a while. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. Do you know of anything that can add weight to machines without removable end caps? Yes, GymPin makes a product. It's an external extender that kind of screws on. There's a picture of it here. I use it to great success. As always, if you want 10% off any GymPin product, use code Izzy10 for 10% off. GymPin is definitely the company to go to if you need extenders and stuff like that. The next question is from a basketball player that is approaching the season, and they're wondering what to do with their strength training. In my experience, for an in-season player, you need to bring all strength training down to the bare minimum for maintenance, because otherwise it interferes with your actual playing in the games. I am doing a deadlift-only program. How much squat work do I need to do? Technically none. You do need some direct quad work. I like stuff like deadlift stance leg press, deadlift stance hack squat. Keeping your quads strong is important to make sure that you don't become weak off of the floor. But if you're a power lifter, you might want to consider keeping squat in at least once a week, because if you do 0 actual barbell squatting, you are going to detrain on the squat. The flip side of that is if you do 0 barbell squatting, you'll have no added lower back fatigue from squats. So you're going to be able to deadlift a little bit more often, use a little bit more volume on deadlifts, and your deadlifts will be stronger. Personally, when my main squat movement is a hack squat or a pendulum, that's when I set all my all-time deadlift PRs, because deadlift basically becomes the only movement in my program that fatigues my lower back at that point. Next question is, what's your favorite Dragon Ball moment? I'm not going to read this answer because it ruins the presentation. So watch and read and enjoy.
I won't let you!
question for you.
What?
Well, I don't wear nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. I don't wear nothing. I don't wear underwear. I don't wear nothing anywhere. Am I supposed to be?
I think sometimes you forget you're a dog.
Oh, no, my dog is, but I just feel like I should be participating in underwear.
The next question here is a twofer. Have you ever used the gymleco hack squat, or do you have any experience with glutathione? I have never used either one, unfortunately. Sorry. All right. Together, we're going to get a little bit philosophical now. So, you were stale on progression. You weren't progressing. You added some volume, and now you started progressing well. If that's not good, then what does good even mean? When doing a front foot elevated Smith split squat, what direction should you face on the angled Smith? The angle should be driving away from the front foot as you descend. So look at the guy on the far left there. You don't want it so that the angle is driving the bar forward towards your knee on the way down, because that's going to encourage forward knee travel, and it's going to tend to bias the quads a little bit more than the glutes. So again, it should be angled away from the front foot. The next question is, which free programs do you recommend for novice and intermediate powerlifters? Listen, I wrote an entire book on my take on novice and intermediate powerlifting programming called Programming to Win. My thoughts are in there, and if that wasn't enough, I did a free program review series, which is still on the Powerlifting to Win YouTube, where I reviewed like almost 20 different free programs. So if you didn't like that content, you're not going to like anything else I have to say either. And as far as like new stuff that's come out in the last few years, I don't look at novice and intermediate powerlifting programs because I am not a novice or intermediate powerlifter. And if I have a novice or intermediate powerlifter that I'm coaching, I make their program for them. So I couldn't tell you what's good out of the new stuff. When studies say resistance training is recommended, they don't mean this max out failure training style that you do. I honestly have no idea what point you're trying to make here. When studies recommend resistance training for what? Like general health and longevity? They don't even mean lifting weights. You could just be going on a hike or doing push-ups or like running on a elliptical with the resistance turned up. I don't know what your point is here. What studies recommend for general health and what's best for hypertrophy are two different things. How can I get bigger arms? My bench press has been stuck in the mid to low twos forever. I realize this is going to sound like I'm being mean or facetious, but have you tried gaining weight and getting stronger? It's a guaranteed recipe for size gains in your arms or anything else. So if you're in a surplus and not getting stronger, the issue is your programming. If you are getting stronger, but you're not gaining weight, then the issue is your nutrition. If you're not willing to gain weight right now because you're fatter than you want to be, go on a diet and revisit the idea of growing bigger muscles when you're ready to be in a surplus. It's unfortunately, or fortunately, really, that simple. In my experience, that actually works the opposite way. So if you go to the gym more frequently, I'm talking about absolute frequency, let's say you train 6 or 7 times a week, you can reduce the amount of local muscular fatigue that you perform under. Good example of this is instead of doing chest, shoulders, and triceps all in the same session, you could do just chest, and then the next day come in and do shoulders and triceps, and you'll be less muscularly fatigued from the chest work that you did the previous day versus if you did it all in the same session. However, you will have more central fatigue from training more often in absolute terms. So the more days per week you train, the more central fatigue that you'll be training under. Versus the more sessions that you do, each session will likely have less muscular fatigue going into it. Typically, but not always, the primary goal of an individual who has been sedentary for a long time, or really any general population person that comes to me, is fat loss. They're looking to lose fat above all else. So as far as the program on the lifting side of things, it really depends on what you can get buy-in for. But more often than not, what I'm going to go with there is a 3 times per week training program where they train the whole body. And typically those programs are going to focus very heavily on learning proper movement mechanics on key exercises like squats, bench presses, overhead presses, pull downs, rows, the basics that build a foundation. Because in the short term, the weights that they're lifting aren't going to necessarily contribute to a rapid transformation, which is usually what they want. What is going to contribute to that rapid transformation and losing a ton of fat is primarily the nutrition side of things. So that's where I would end up placing more of my focus is on counting calories, learning about macronutrition, how to pick foods that keep you full, how to fit in your favorite foods in moderation without overeating, and really focusing more so on the nutrition side of things. Whereas the lifting will be, only 3 times per week. And even during the sessions, it'll be largely focused on getting the technique correct instead of rushing to add a lot of weight or rushing to add a lot of reps and make a ton of progress, because that's more foundational. In the long run, that foundation that you build by learning good technique, getting good habits, is what's going to help you keep muscle, build muscle, and make it easier to keep off the fat that you've lost. So that's the general structure. It's a 3 times per week lifting program, full body, and a heavy emphasis on nutritional education. All right, everybody, hope you enjoyed today's Q&A. Tomorrow I'll actually get back in the gym and do some push training with some chest rolls and triceps. And as always, if you liked it, like it, comment, share, do all that sort of stuff that helps the algorithm. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all tomorrow.